Let's set the stage, shall we? It's the 29th millennium. The Age of Strife still rages on. And while the man who will soon proclaim himself the Emperor of Mankind works in secret to create Thunder Warriors and unify the homeworld of humanity, far away on the eastern fringe of the galaxy, the Tau Empire begins its second grand expansion through the stars. Haha, yes, my dear viewers and listeners. Today, as decided by the vote of my Patreon supporters, we shall explore a what-if scenario. Namely, what if the Tau Empire began their expansion during the Age of Strife? A fun scenario, and one usually not considered, seeing how the whole thing about the Tau is that they are the new kid on the block in the grim dark future of the 41st millennium. But I'm up for discussing this scenario for the sake of entertainment. Before we begin, remember to like, comment, subscribe, ring the bell, the whole shtick. You know what to do. If you can, support me through Patreon, and if you want to donate to Star Wars x Warhammer 40k art budget, do so through Ko-fi. It's thanks to your donations that this narrative series has its own art gallery, free of AI slop. All links are in the description below. With that out of the way, let's begin. Okay, because 40k dates are all over the place and about as consistent as a mudslide, let's assume that the second sphere of expansion of the Tau Empire begins in the mid-29th millennium. According to the wiki, the canonical first sphere of expansion lasted around 1,500 years, while the second sphere was roughly half as long. With the Great Crusade commencing in 798 M30 and lasting a little over 200 years, this would give the Tau somewhere around 1,500 years to expand and establish themselves on the eastern fringe, enough time to turn them into a formidable enemy. I think that's relatively fair, especially since the Age of Strife lasted 5,000 years, and I'm placing the Tau near the end of that period, so it's not like I'm giving the Tau as much additional time as I could. And this extra time is needed for the discussion. Because if we stick to the scenario where the Imperium encounters the Tau Empire at the end of the second sphere of expansion, as it happened in canon, there would be no scenario to speak of. The Tau would get wiped out. Even a generous assumption of the Tau Empire's strength at that period cannot match the might of the Emperor's Legion of Adeptus Astartes, led by the Primarchs at the height of the Great Crusade. And while the Tau proved themselves capable of challenging the forces of the Imperium in the 41st millennium, those forces were a pale shadow compared to the military might the Imperium possessed during the Great Crusade. The Tau would be nothing more than a footnote, and one that would be quickly forgotten. But frankly, such a discussion isn't fun at all. It undercuts the potential of a scenario, so let's give the Tau a bit more time to expand, without a force such as the Imperium of Man constraining their movement. Their only real foe in this age would be the orcs, who were quite widespread during that period, as well as numerous Xenos and human civilizations. And here is where the fun of this scenario begins. We are well aware that the Emperor was responsible for, frankly, an insane amount of genocides throughout the galaxy during the Great Crusade. Sure, he wiped out many extremely hostile xenospecies, but also many quite friendly civilizations, including those that cooperated and coexisted with humans. But in this scenario, there is a solid chance that it would be the Tau who would reach those civilizations first. Without the unified front of the Imperium of Man, the Tau would have a far easier time expanding and assimilating new civilizations into their commonwealth, whether through diplomacy or conquest. And, as we know, the Tau grow in power with every species, territory, and technology they bring into the fold. I explained how terrifying the Earthcast is in my old video, which I encourage you to check out, but as terrifying as the Earthcast is with the technology they adapt for their own use in the 41st millennium, my fear factor multiplies by about 10 at the thought of what they could get their hands on during the Age of Strife. Many xeno-civilizations had access to downright insane technology in that period, not to mention the archaeotech of humanity or the STCs. Can you even begin to imagine how much more dangerous the Tau could become if they got their hands on some STC fragments? If you thought the technological advancements the Tau Empire achieved in the few centuries between first contact with the Imperium and the current timeline were impressive, or somewhat concerning, expect things to be far more extreme this time. And again, technology is only a piece of a puzzle, because there is also the matter of assimilated civilizations, not only Xeno, but human ones. Voltoris, homeworld of House Terran, is very close to Tau borders. So, while not guaranteed, there is the potential for Tau-aligned night houses. And more than that, Tau-aligned night houses with their own night designs, improved and expanded upon thanks to the Earthcast and their discoveries of ancient human technology. I mean, it's kinda old, and was meant to be part of my Damocles Gulf Crusade rewrite project, which is currently on hold, but I commissioned art from Real Mech is Love to create some unique knights. Yes, I said they should be inspired by Zaku's from Mobile Suit Gundam. Sue me, they look cool. But yeah, anyway, this is only a glimpse into the potential of what the Tau could have on their hands if they began their expansion during the Age of Strife. We are talking about dozens of Xenos and human civilizations that could become part of a Tau Commonwealth. Something not unique for that period. We know of Interrex and the Diasporex as two examples of civilizations where humans and Xenos worked closely together, thrived, and frankly, both proved to be quite a challenge to the Imperium of Man. In the end, both the Interrex and the Diasporex were destroyed, and a commonwealth ruled by the Tau would most likely suffer a similar fate, though causing significant losses to the Imperium, unless the Tau had an ace or two that the Interrex and the Diasporex lacked: Primarchs. Because the Tau Empire originates on the eastern fringe of the Milky Way galaxy, not far from Macragge and Nuceria. This might sound far-fetched, but hear me out. The main reason the Tau Empire dramatically slowed its expansion in the 41st millennium was because of the Imperium of Man. They can only bite off small chunks of this ancient beast without rousing it to anger. Or they can only expand in the limited directions where the Imperium has little presence. Without such unified force to stop them, they would expand faster and further, potentially reaching all the way to Macragge, or at least the canonical region of Ultramar. Imagine a scenario where Angron was either saved or possibly even raised by the Tau. Some don't know it, but Angron was an empath. He had the ability to take the pain and the despair of others, to calm people's nerves, and to give them hope. The tragedy of Angron is that, if not for the butcher's nails, he would have been one of the kindest, if not the kindest of the Primarchs, even including Vulcan. As a freed slave and an empath, I think Angron could appreciate the philosophy of a greater good more than the majority of the Primarchs. And with Angron on their side, the Tau would already be a menace. But what if our beloved Blueberry Boy Scout and the entire realm of Ultramar were also allies to the Tau Empire and their growing Commonwealth? We know that the Tau prefer diplomacy to conquest, and that their allies often have more autonomy than most people assume. So who is to say that Robute Gilman wouldn't see the Tau as better allies than the Emperor's xenophobic vision for humanity? Tau with one Primarch on their side would be very dangerous. With two, they would become an existential threat, especially with the entire realm of Ultramar behind them. Now, I want to be very clear on this. I think the Imperium would still have a solid chance of destroying the Tau, Ultramar, and the two Primarchs. The Imperium does have the Emperor, the majority of the remaining Primarchs, not to mention the Astartes legions. But there is also a solid chance that the existence of not one, but two Primarchs aligned with Xenos would trigger a civil war among the Astartes legions. I doubt it would be the Horus Heresy. That catastrophic conflict was caused by a very specific chain of events that is less likely to unfold with Robute and Angron standing with the Tau. Not to mention how badly this would destabilize the entire Great Crusade. The Emperor had already erased two Primarchs. Now there would be two more on the list. What to do with the Warhounds and Ultramarines legions? Even if the Horus Heresy doesn't happen and the Emperor doesn't end up on his big golden chair, the Imperium would still suffer tremendous losses. There is a chance that one or more loyal Primarchs would lose their lives in the war against the Tau Ultramar Commonwealth. And even if they don't, I can't imagine the scale of casualties across the Imperial military, be it the Imperial Army or the Astartes legions. And if the Horus Heresy or some other form of Primarch-led civil war does happen anyway, the situation becomes even worse. Because then you'd have the Imperium, Chaos-corrupted Primarchs, and Tau-aligned Primarchs. A three-way war for the dominion of the galaxy. Frankly, the possible end scenarios are staggering. It's impossible to explore all of them in this video, if I want to keep it relatively condensed. But as far as I see it, there are several main endpoints to this idea and how it would impact the setting of 40k. Total Imperium victory. There are 4 Primarchs struck from the record, and if there was a Primarch civil war, it wasn't as destructive as the Horus Heresy. Though costly and time-consuming, the Emperor ultimately achieved his goal. Partial Imperial victory. The Horus Heresy happened anyway, but the Loyalists won, though with the Emperor still mortally wounded. The Imperium endures, but without the realm of Ultramar or the Ultramarines as an important center of power, which could lead to a potential fall of the Imperium before the start of the 41st millennium. Chaos victory. The defeat of the Tau Ultramar Commonwealth was so costly that when the Horus Heresy happened, the Emperor and the Loyalists weren't strong enough to stop it. The Emperor fell, and so did humanity. Two-way stalemate. The galaxy is split between the Imperium of Man and the Tau Ultramar Commonwealth, with never-ending war waged between the two factions. Three-way stalemate. The galaxy is divided between the Imperium, the Commonwealth, and the forces of chaos. And finally, the least likely. Commonwealth victory. The Tau Ultramar Commonwealth endures the assault of the Imperium long enough for the Horus Heresy or a similar civil war to break out. They hold their ground as traitors and loyalists tear each other to shreds. Then move in, wipe out the survivors, and secure a dominant position in the galaxy. Of course, there are far more potential outcomes, and I could make an entire narrated series based on this concept. But I won't, because running the Star Wars x Warhammer 40k series is already more than enough, and I do not trust myself to run 2 narrative series at the same time. But hey, if you want to try your luck, you are free to do so. Anyway, I think that's all as far as this video goes. Tell me what you think in the comments. And of course, don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring that bell. I want to reach 6,000 subscribers before the end of the year, and I can't do that without you. If you can, support me through Patreon or Ko-fi. I would appreciate it very much. All links in the description below. Thank you for joining me, and I hope you enjoyed. Now, my dear viewers and listeners, remember, wherever you are, whatever you do, try to enjoy yourself. While you can, I wish you most heretical day. Ta-ta!